checked out.
How
from
do you
today.
tell somebody with bad breath they need a colonic? Like, what do you do for them?
I just say, listen, I see what's going on at the top. I don't think much is going on at the bottom. And I Okay, and here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. My name is Mike Perrine. This is the Everydaydetox podcast. Needless to say, I've been a little bit behind schedule. I'm having some time management issues, honestly. The studio, Vitality New York City, back in Midtown in New York, where we do colon hydrotherapy, cryotherapy, and infrared saunas. That has taken quite a bit of my time. I was there for 2 weeks. We had the most amazing time out there. I was there for 2 weeks last month, and I did so many appointments. People were flying in. I mean, I was so I appreciate it so much. People were literally flying in from other states to get colonics. And I would say to people, they say, we watch you on Instagram and we watch the stories and we really wanted to experience the type of colonic that you talk about and we wanted to meet you. And I go, well, isn't that awesome that your vacation in New York lined up with my time in New York too? And they were like, no, this is the vacation. We're here for the colonic. And I was like, what? And many people did that. And it was such a great time. I love my crew there so much. It's my sacred little space in the middle of all the chaos. So if you've never been to our studio, we are right in the center of New York City, right? So we're just blocks away from Times Square. We're right in Herald Square, actually. So we're basically right next to Macy's, which is the biggest retail store, I think, in the country, that location, right? So there's a lot of activity. And then you walk into our studio and it's modern and chill. And Kyle will come and give you a big hug and sing you a song. And people are splashing essential oils on themselves. And you'll see the nitrogen spilling out onto the floor from the cryo chamber. It's just a lot of fun. It's really dope. I had the best time with everyone out there. So what were we talking about? Time. Yeah. So anyway, I've been a little bit behind schedule. There's been some audio and editing issues and all sorts of stuff going on with this podcast. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. So there's been some personal life demands as far as scheduling and doing stuff. Super exciting, but super overwhelming. Not the marriage part. I'm super happy about that. But the event part of it is geez, there's so much to do. I have family flying in from the East Coast. Holly has family driving hours down from Southern Oregon. We're doing it near San Francisco. So it's easy for everyone to kind of come together because we're from different parts of the country, as far away as you can get almost. So that's super fun and exciting. Speaking of Holly, actually it's the next podcast, I think. Yes, the next podcast, Holly and I sat down and we did one because if you're someone that watches the Insta story on the Everyday Detox account on Instagram, I used to get so many questions just coming in. Everybody wants to know what Holly's deal is. How did you guys meet? They, because in between doing the Q&As, I show a lot of our life here and the animals we rescue and the pets that we have and the garden that we grow. And so, people are always asking Holly, a lot of the women are asking her beauty questions because they like her hair or they want to know what products she likes. But a lot of people are what is it like to live with that maniac being me? So Holly kind of gets brought into the Q&As a lot. So we decided to just do a whole podcast and it's about us and how we met. And what it's like to, Holly and I are kind of along the same wavelength when it comes to the way we think about food and the way we think about the environment and the way we think about the way animals should be treated. So we're kind of along the same wavelength, but we are also totally different from totally different worlds. So the next podcast is us just talking about that. And it's a lot of fun. It's a cool one. This podcast is with Jen Gonzalez. She's part of my wonderful team at Vitality. She's a colon hydrotherapist known on the interwebs and on Instagram and other social media as Duty Free Girl. And she's hilarious. She makes the most amazing memes about poop culture. She's made a culture around detoxification regarding the conversation around taking shits. So she's done a really great job with that. And it's great because sitting down with her and doing a podcast allows it invites a lot of value to come from like nutritional detox conversations, but it also brings a lot of hilarity. Like I think the first thing we got into was how men and women use public bathrooms and stuff like that. So it was fun. She made me this shirt. If you're watching this on YouTube, then she made me this shirt, and she made me a bunch of shirts actually, and it's like a podcast special edition shirt. But on this one, it just says fashion blogger across the front, which makes absolutely no sense, but it makes like the best sense because it's hysterical. Like, because when I'm walking around wearing a shirt that says fashion blogger, it just makes absolutely no sense that it's hysterical. So anyway, this one with Jen is super special. It's super great. I want to jump in a moment. But first, speaking of t-shirts, we actually have sponsors for this podcast now. So this podcast, of course, is brought to you by Vitality New York City. That's the studio back in New York where we film a lot of these podcasts, where this one with Jen was just filmed. And also by Roots and Sky Clothing, which I am an owner of. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm holding up a t-shirt right now that has this really cool Everyday Detox podcast t-shirt that's a pineapple. And it's a word cloud, which means the pineapple is made up of all of these different words. And these are all the words that I commonly use, things like consistency and self-responsibility and raw juicing and vegan, and all these words that kind of encompass the lifestyle that I talk about and promote here on the podcast and in my social media. So there's a lot of actually different types of shirts that all celebrate plant-based living and natural living. So if you would like to support this podcast, please visit us at rootsandskyclothing.com. We're actually in the process of launching it as I record this. So if you're listening to this early and the website is not up, then please jump over to Instagram and give us a follow at Roots and Sky Clothing. And of course, we will let you know as soon as the website is up and active. But I designed a lot of these, and they're a lot of fun. And there are a lot of Everyday Detox concept t-shirts there. So please pay us a visit there, support the podcast, grab a shirt. Speaking of Instagram, we are also brought to you by Higher Dose Infrared Wraps, because on Instagram, I do Q&As anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what kind of time I have or how excited I am about the questions coming in. And I open up the platform for people to ask questions, and then I answer them. And of course, a couple of times a month, infrareds come up because they're a very, very powerful method of detoxification. So it came up in a Q&A, and I was answering some questions about infrareds. And people were like saying, look, I can't afford to buy a sauna right now. There's no infrared place by me. They're too big for my apartment. And they would send me links from Amazon. And they were like, what do you think about this tent? Or what do you think about this wrap? And they were always like products that were super cheap, made overseas. They didn't have any mention of EMF protection or like exactly what kind of panels they were using, So I couldn't really recommend them. And I was like, guys, I don't know, but they kind of look like cheap shit. So I didn't want to tell anyone to buy this shit off of Amazon like that. And then somebody messaged me and they said, well, what do you think about the Higher Dose infrared wraps? And I was like, wait a second. I didn't even know that Higher Dose made infrared wraps. Higher Dose is a company in New York. I know the owners, Lauren and Katie, for a long time now. And I was able to just call them up and I said, guys, I didn't even know you made a wrap. I said, what's the situation with EMFs? I need to be able to recommend something to people when I do these Q&As, because people are sending me all these this random stuff from Amazon and stuff. And they said, look, we'll send you one. See what you think. And they sent me one. I'm embarrassed to say, guys, it took me 6 months before I even reviewed this thing. It was just, like I mentioned, my time management is way off. But I finally got in it last week, and I really loved it. It is a different experience than actually sitting in an infrared sauna. It's a wrap, So basically, you're wrapped up with infrared panels in this beautiful sleeping bag-like a thing that's very easy to clean. And it's a nice, slow build. And then you start getting really hot and you have a nice deep sweat. I liked it a lot. So I can totally get behind it. And if you want to support this podcast, what you can do is go to the description of this podcast. And there is a link there with $50 off Higher Dose infrared wraps. So the cool thing also is that they have a payment plan. So I think the wrap is, I forgot how much it was. But anyway, it's $50 off whatever it is. And then they let you pay in 3 installments, and it's totally affordable. So check it out. Look below, and please support this podcast in that way. So let's jump right into this one. I already told myself I wasn't going to make this one too long. I definitely failed at that. But anyway, lots of fun. I love you guys. I love that you're watching this podcast and messaging me about this podcast, even when I haven't posted for like a couple of months. It means the world to me that you find value here. So let's jump right in. Thank you for setting us up, Nick.
Bye, Nick.
Jen Gonzalez, duty-free girl. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, it's happening.
It's been a long time.
We've been talking about this forever.
Yeah, the thing is, we usually film them after hours, and most people are like, I can't come there at 8 o'clock, except for Gil. Gil's always like, I'm like, Gil, I'd love to have you on the podcast. Can you come back? He's like, yeah, but it's got to be 9:30. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly when I want to do it. 2 podcasts in one day today. I put us in the sauna room here because we did it during business hours, and there was all sorts of noise. They did construction on the first one. It was like a total disaster logistically. But we got the content, but that's why we're stuck away in this room. Usually we do it out in the open so we could like hang out.
I like it in here. I don't spend enough time in here.
It's a little cozy, right?
It is cozy in here.
So yeah, a bunch of questions came in from Instagram. Before we get into all that stuff, I want to know, and I vaguely remember some of our conversations, but it's kind of fresh to me. And I just kind of want to get an idea. How did you get involved in the strangest profession in the world that we're in?
I was just bored. I was working for my parents.
I've never heard that before. How did you become a colonic therapist? I was fucking bored, man. I've never heard anybody say that.
I mean, when you're bored, I was bored at the insurance office of all things. I mean, can you picture me sitting at a desk from 9 to 5, pushing papers around? And it was not a hard job. I work for my family. They're lovely, but it was just, I felt like I was in a prison every day. So I would run like crazy in the morning. I mean, I became super judgmental too. Everybody in the office was getting wider and wider. And I'd known people who'd worked for my parents for like 10 years. And I was just seeing how unhealthy they were and their habits. And that I feel like that's just the office life. And any office experience I've had, it's the same recurring theme, just fat people, unhealthy people. They just work, go home, take care of their families, go to bed, wake up, do it over again. And it's just I don't know, to me, that's not rewarding at all. So I had no passion at the time as far as what I wanted to pursue professionally. But in the morning, I would work out like crazy. I'd be running 4 or 5 miles every morning. I hate running too, by the way.
Yeah, you never struck me as a fitness person.
No, I mean, I like doing things that are for exercise that I enjoy. I go to yoga, I go to dance classes, I go surfing. But it's like, it's not like, working out and like lifting weights, and I'm not that kind of person. But I would do that in the morning because it would just give you that runner's high that made it okay to sit on your ass from 9 to 5 every day. Mm-hmm. And eventually my knees and my hips were killing me. I probably don't run well. I'm probably not supposed to run.
Where were you doing this? Where were you working? And
I was working in North Bergen, New Jersey, and I was living in West New York, New Jersey. So I would be running every morning along the water, along the Hudson River, which was nice. I like faked myself into liking running for a little while. And then my knees and my hips started breaking down. So I had to figure out, for vanity purposes, how to keep things under control. So I'm like, let me go pick up a diet book. And this was like 10 years ago, when not everybody and their mother had a health book on the market. So
it's so saturated right now.
It was crazy. At the time I went to it's not there any longer, but there was a Barnes and Noble in Edgewater, New Jersey. And it's now a Michael's. But at the time it had a tiny health book section. This one book was phased out. We all know it, The Raw Food Detox Diet by Natalia Rose.
She was a New Yorker. And
she's in South Africa.
Yeah, she was a colleague of ours.
And a client of Gil's. And so Gil had a chapter. I think he has a chapter in her book, or at least a few pages.
He does, like a big interview in the back.
Yeah. And then he's referenced in the back, and there's this whole underlying importance of elimination as far as reaping any benefit from a detox, which she drives home the idea that the word detox has just become synonymous with the word diet. It's lost its meaning. We're not actually eliminating toxins on these detox diets that are out there. So in order to experience effortless weight loss or glowing skin or heightened energy levels, you need to actually be pooping, sweating, draining your lymph system, and all this stuff was just so crazy.
That book was kind of a game changer because she and I learned from other books way before that came out, but like the books that I learned from like you had to be a special kind of certain crazy to get them, you know, like Professor Arnold Ehret,
Oh my God.
Norman Walker, Bernard Jensen, the complete guide. What was this book called? The Guide to Better Bowel Care or something.
It's like all the books with the old people on the front.
Yeah, it was like, you know, Hallelujah Acres. There was like Christian Seventh-day Adventist books on raw food. Like, so like that didn't do anything. Like the
No.
bearded white men like didn't really apply to most people. But that's kind of how I found stuff and Gil found stuff. But then Natalia was like kind of tapped into that scene from her own process and getting colonics and doing all that stuff, and she was like, oh, I'm gonna make this amazing with like, and she had a book with, it said right across the front, the raw food, I think it was the raw detox diet or the raw food detox diet, beautiful cover with like vibrant and fruit.
Yeah,
and then, like,
she made it sexy. You know?
and then all of a sudden women were like, oh shit, yeah, what is this? And then they were like, okay, colonics, pooping, detoxing. So yeah, so okay, so you were reading that.
Yeah, and the book is just, it makes perfect sense logically. You know, it's completely out there if you're used to just mainstream anything.
I've not read the book, so
It's nothing you don't know already. But she touches on food combining, juicing, fasting, and then she's got levels. So much of the book is just a diet plan. So she has actual meal plans for you every day, and there's different levels. So you can start, she encourages you to start at a lower level where you're still eating foods that you eat. You're just combining them properly to alleviate gas or bloating or any kind of, you know, digestive issues you're dealing with. But it introduced the concept of food combining, which is definitely nothing I'd ever heard of. And if, to me, that was almost, you know, revolutionary. It was like, I could just switch the combinations I'm eating things, you know, and that alone will help things move along. But then, you know, I wanted to graduate fast. So I became a little obsessed. And then I started seeing Gil. I think it took me like a month to work up the courage to get a colonic.
how did you get tapped into Gil?
Through the book.
Oh, that's right. That's what am I thinking? That's right.
Yeah, because he's in it, and his chapter's obviously super radical, like even more radical than the rest of the book. But I'm like, all right, let me go. And it's just his numbers in the back. I called the number. It's like his. I'm like, am I calling this guy's house? Like, what is happening?
You were calling his house, is what you were doing. Or I used to own a studio with Gil, and we used to, all we had was an answering machine and an appointment book with like colors from highlighters and pen, and like that was it. And you know, and you get the answering machine, and you'd be like, "What's happening, people?"
And then he gives you like the dates that are still available.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So whatever, we made it happen, and then
He still does that, by the way.
He does.
Yeah.
He's got his notepad. He scribbles everything. But yeah, he's like this wizard, this colonic wizard, and he became kind of my nutritionist and colon therapist all in one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the time, like I said, I was miserable at work. I was miserable running. I was miserable doing everything. So I was seeing Gil weekly for colonics, and he just became this, what I look forward to every week, you know, getting that knowledge, getting that. And then he eventually talked me into it. He's like, you're miserable at work. You get to know your colon therapist. You're miserable at work. Go get certified and come back and go work for my friend Tom. He definitely needs more therapists. He'll train you, because you go to, you know, the Wood School in Kissimmee, Florida.
Yeah, the initial, just people listening trying to get a sense of colonic therapy. The training for colonic therapy is usually not very sufficient. It's sufficient in that you know what to do. So doing a treatment, it's like driving a car. It's like you check your mirror, you make sure this is there, you hook this thing up, you turn the key, but it takes a little while to be able to drive with the music on with one hand on the wheel while checking your Snapchat, and like, you know, that takes a little while to get that, like.
It's like doing this. That's what I felt like for like a month. And I went to, I don't know if you know Linda, but she and I went to training together. And when we first started working with Tom, we would get people to come in for like $40 colonics. Gil fed them to us. He's like, take the, what's he call them? Poets and whatever.
Oh, the painters and poets.
The painters and poets.
Meaning the people that can't, you know, because colonics, I'm downplaying the amount of skill it takes. It takes a lot. There's insurance. We custom build the units. It takes many years to become good at it. So it's in a sense, it's a luxury service. Most insurance does not cover any colonizer therapy. So, but there's a lot of people that can benefit from it. So the painters and poets, as Gil calls them, they need discounted appointments. So
they'd come in and they would it was just a complete shit show, literally. I'm like, Linda, you talk to them. I'm going to handle this over here. I'm like, hopefully they don't talk to me too, because I can't do all this at once. Make sure the water doesn't spill all over them, which I've definitely bathed a few people in the colonic room.
From overflowing a tank?
Yes.
Yeah.
At release, like 3 times in the beginning.
So what Jen's referring to is like, we fill up these tanks, and if you are a new therapist and you're distracted, the tank just keeps filling and you're talking, and then all of a sudden the water starts pouring out of the top. Clean fresh water. Most people don't understand what a colonic room looks like. Clean
No
fresh
big
water.
deal.
Clean fresh water can come pouring over the top, and I'm sure I've overflowed a tank once or twice in my time.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I started. And Tom DeVito, who's been on this podcast, he's my main mentor.
And by the way, Tom and Jen both work here, and you have a studio in Jersey City. So.
Yes. And so yeah, I mean, I couldn't have done this without my mentors. I would have never even pursued this professionally if Gil didn't bring it up, because at first I was like, hell no, that's disgusting. I'm not going to give colonics for a living. I'm a professional working woman. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is actually super rewarding. No day is the same.
Did you have anything around that though? Like all of a sudden you're a colonic therapist and people are like, what do you do? Did you ever hide it from anyone?
Oh yeah. I didn't hide it so much. I think I would just put it out there right away to kind of get it over with, like a clean ass. That was always my response.
You always threw some humor in.
Yeah.
On it.
And that was almost more for my sake. Like,
yeah.
I clean ass. Like, what's your response? Moving on. But at the time, it wasn't super popular. I mean, you've been in this for super long. And so you've seen the progression of it becoming a little bit more acceptable over the years. And you probably thought maybe 10 years it was even then acceptable. But I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was super weird.
Well, there's a couple of things to that. One is like I'm all in on insanity. Like, I've been eating vegan, mostly raw, for like 25 years. I've done all sorts of stuff in my body. I committed at a very young age. I was 19 when I got into this, that I didn't care what was going on. It's like I was against all of it. The food culture of society. I was against the medical culture of society.
I didn't realize you were 19.
Yeah, I was 19 when
Wow.
I started. Yeah. So I had that, but also when I got into this, there was a scene around it. The raw food movement had just exploded, and I'd already been immersed in the health food scene, working as a chef at Angelica Kitchen. So there was a scene, like it was looked more like people that got treatments, because it wasn't in the mainstream yet. But the people that got treatments, a lot of celebrities, a lot of just like artists, a lot of free-thinking people that were reading these self-published books about raw food. Like you almost felt like this sense of like, I'm doing something the rest of the world doesn't know about, and it's so next level. We're so cool, you know what I mean? And then it got thrust into the mainstream, and then you had all those type of people were a little more likely to judge you. I used to go to my high school reunions, right? And I would go there, and the first high school reunion was like 10 years or something, and people were like, wait, what do you do, Perrine? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Wait. What is my Perrine? Come over here. Explain this to John. Explain what the fuck, it was like that kind of shit. And then by the second high school reunion, it was like, hey man, listen, I got to come see you. You know how many people from high school I've worked on,
That's awesome. That's how it always works.
Yeah. But I get it. Like there's some little something around that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while, especially because I was insecure even financially. Like, what was I doing with my life? Is this even going to work? Is this just some weird shit I'm into right now? Because I definitely have gone through my phases in life, especially in my 20s. So this was all happening mid to late 20s.
10 years later, you're crushing it.
Thanks. Just took 10 years, a little bit of encouragement. But yeah, working at Release completely changed my life. I learned so much from Tom, and then just working. I mean, Tom, he's just in it to win it. So
he's all in. He's like a walking encyclopedia. He could have anywhere to go. You could ask him a question about cleansing, colonics, and he'll stop everything to educate whoever's standing there.
And it could be the most redundant shit, and that to me, and like he will repeat the whole thing to you. Like he has the most patience of like anybody. So yeah, he trained me. I worked there, and then I started blogging in 2012 because I noticed most of my clients were females. I don't know if that's the case with you, but I'd say it's like, I don't know, 85% females.
It's changed over the years. Mine was 85. Mine was like 90% females when I first started. And then you would have the vegans that you described earlier. You'd have those type of guys coming in and like, not true. Like there was all sorts of like working class people too that had bowel issues that were just forward thinking. But it's changed. Now I think it's about 60-40. 60 female, 40 male.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's a lot's changed. But anyway, go ahead.
I think that percentage just kind of stuck in my head because the guys will come in, but mostly because they're curious or they're on a journey. But the women come in because they're fucking constipated, right? And they're just, embarrassed to go to the bathroom, especially if they've been on vacation. There's been a recurring theme. It's mostly girls who've gone on vacation with a boy. They held it in. They didn't want to go to the bathroom in front of a guy. God forbid. He knows that they poop or fart, and then that fucked them up for life, because subconsciously that plays into your everyday, where it's just, oh, you train yourself to hold it in, and then you stop going in public, or maybe you never went in public for whatever reason, but I know the reason. It's gossip. But it's just this whole stigma around it. I mean,
a lot. It's for men too around women. I mean, a good man. You know what I mean? Like, come on, we're men. We fart and shit like that. And
but I think it's also the configuration of your bathrooms. Like, the guys have the stall and the urinals, right? So if a guy's in the stall, like, you know what he's doing. Right? Like, girls, like, we could be doing either one, but you want people to think you're just peeing, you know?
So girls even care what other girls think about.
Oh, completely.
Oh, see, I have no idea. I've never been in a
girls
ladies'
are
room.
cruel, like, especially growing up, you know? And in the office environment, I can't imagine.
What's the condition of a public woman's bathroom? Because I've never been in one.
So it depends where you are, but they're pretty gnarly.
They're gnarly as well?
Blood, but we got blood going on.
But still, what? Okay, so women, think about it. At home, you don't have blood all over your toilets at home or on the floor.
No, it's like there's less consideration in the public bathroom.
It's a weird thing about humanity that works that way.
I know.
Because, like, I know, like, you can go to a bathroom in a place in an office and you could look at all the men and you're like, you all look like normal humans that I'd let come over to my house for dinner and use my bathroom. But yet this bathroom looks like fucking somebody filled a balloon with feces and urine and threw it at the ceiling. Like, what the hell? You know, and they're just
okay, legit. I'm so happy you brought this up, because legit this weekend that kind of happened in the Brunswick Center where I work. So my studio is in a community center, which is an old Catholic school. My studio has its own bathroom. You still have to come visit me.
I have not. Yeah, I know. I've not been out to your studio. I must.
So, but there's a public area. There's a lounge area that people can wait for their friends, because upstairs it's all fitness facilities and then Colonics. And there's two bathrooms, a women's bathroom and a men's bathroom, multi-stall configuration with showers. But the women's bathroom this weekend, the guy who's kind of the maintenance guy, he showed me a video of what he had to clean up this weekend, and I just could not believe it, because it's a very civilized community center, but somebody shat on the seat. They had explosive diarrhea, shat on the seat. There was shit splattered all over the wall, and then it carried into the next stall on the toilet. So I'm just like, I don't know what happened.
That must have been somebody drunk, shitting themselves and falling around there. Christ, it must have been. How else does that happen?
But and then you got to think about, so you can learn a lot about a person by their bathroom habits. Like, there's shit on the toilet. You didn't think to clean it for the person who might walk in behind you, or you just don't care, or maybe you slept there. I don't know. So yeah, I really hope people start taking more. So I went to Japan 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
They their bathrooms are pristine.
They've next leveled bathroom culture.
Completely. They take it very seriously. There's noisemakers so that you don't feel embarrassed.
There should be some type of white noise machine, especially for public places.
There's exactly. There's bidets on every toilet, even if you're at a rest stop.
You ever use one of those?
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't really feel too good about that. I feel like it's just messy and weird, and then my butthole's wet.
But then, like, if I take a shit, like, sometimes I get in the shower, and it's kind of like a shower bidet, I call it.
Okay. I could see that being a good thing if you're at home.
And then I'm like, why don't I just have a bidet?
But if a bidet, you need some type of instrument to shoot the water, right? Either they're handheld or it's built into the toilet. I don't know if I want water from that thing that's been around.
I thought about getting one for duty free, but people, you know, when people after a colonic, they spray everywhere. So I would imagine it just gets dirty. So the handheld ones are another option. I've had one of those before, but most of them are freezing cold water, which I guess can be refreshing. And it's funny we're bringing this up again.
Some Wim Hof shit right there. So we got
So last week where I live, my landlord sent out a notification that there was a major water damage in 4 units because of someone trying to install the handheld bidet. And it must have just exploded in the middle of the night. I don't know what happened. So now I'm off the bidet kick.
If it's not in the toilet and it's firing, it's just going to fire out into the...
No, but I think they messed with the plumbing. I think it must have been, I don't know, something happened in the pipes. So...
Hey, short end of it, it sounds like dangerous territory.
Yeah, just hop in the shower.
But someone shouldn't have to take a shower after taking a shit. I feel like if you having to hop in the shower after taking a shit, you need to reevaluate all the food you put in your mouth. Like, what the fuck's going on with you?
Hey now, guilty. I want to hear Guy's perspective.
I feel really bad because I had this apartment in Park Slope, and I thought the bathroom was private enough, and I would always put music on, but the door didn't close all the way, because like in old buildings, like they paint the door, they paint these beautiful wooden doors, and then they get thicker and thicker, and they like won't close all the way. And I lived there alone, and it was fine. And then Holly came to visit me for the first time ever, and like she brought it up like a year later. She's like that fucking time I spent I came to spend I met you for the first time. We dated for 5 months before we even met on we did FaceTime dating, because she lived in Oregon and I lived in New York. And she's like, I came to see you for the first time as a week. She goes, that fucking bathroom door wouldn't shut and all this stuff. She's like, I just wanted to die. And
what did she do? Did she go?
I'm sure she did.
I'm sure Holly appreciates us talking about
this. Talking about her bowel habits. I was good. I understand these things. I put on music. I stayed far the fuck away from the bathroom. I was like, I'm gonna. But still, when you're meeting someone.
You're like, you're a nurse. I'm a colon hydrotherapist. We both know what's happening right now.
What are your feelings about giving your significant other colonics? Because
I'm all about it.
You
I
want
gave
them to
Andy a
get the
colonic
best.
last night.
Well, you gave him a colonic.
Yeah. It's actually kind of mandatory if you're dating me.
Would you let let's say Andy's not a colonic therapist, but let's say he was. Would you let him give you colonics?
Oh,
because that's usually the way it's a little more twisted.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. Holly says you're never ever giving me a colonic, and I'm like, cool.
But she's had a colonic?
She's not had a colonic yet. No.
Oh, are you serious?
It's correct.
I want to be her first.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, she goes, I'm going to go to Jen.
Yes.
She said that. Yeah. She goes, and I always joke around with her. Like sometimes she'll be like, yeah, she's like she'll be flying in or something like that to New York. And she'll be like, oh, yeah, that plane ride was just rough. I just don't feel right. I can't wait to rest. And I'm like, don't worry, honey. I'll get you on the treatment table. I'll tell you. And she's like, stop it. Stop it. You're not giving me a colonic. She goes, if anything, Jen's going to give me a colonic.
Well, when I first started training with Tom, it was Vanessa, his ex-girlfriend Vanessa was working there.
Right.
So to me, that seemed normal. I mean, he was always giving her colonics. They were always kind of in and out of the rooms with each other. And it felt normal, but I don't know if I could see myself in that position.
Yeah, it gets normalized, for us to do treatments. Isn't it cute when people come in and they're like, "Oh, I'm a little nervous because you're going to see me." And we're just
drop
like,
your pants.
We're just come on, just assume the position. We got this. Don't worry about it. We've done this before, maybe 40,000
You'll come out
times.
alive, I promise.
We just checked the cameras and we paused for a second. And Jen said the funniest thing. She's like, "Don't let people see me drinking from plastic bottles," but she's kidding because she's being a purist about it. I'm bummed that, when I'm in New York, I'm super bummed that I'm buying from Juice Press. I mean, I'm happy they're there. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that we can get fresh raw juice, but a lot of plastic. It's just a shit ton of plastic in my life. I don't like drinking out of plastic. I mean, we recycle here, but our building doesn't recycle. They say that they do, and they'll fine us if we don't put it in the right bag. I watch it go outside. New York City is a little bit of a train wreck when it comes to consistency and environmentalism, But yeah, it bums me out. But what, were you just making a joke or what?
No, I try really hard to be mindful. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it drives me crazy. I mean, I've been trying to drink out of my glass bottle, and I'm like, why can't we just have refillable services? Or why does everything have to be out of a plastic bottle?
Well, they got it down on the West Coast. I mean, the amount of places I go to, and they're like, bring your own bottle, and they fill your kombuchas up, and you can bring your own. Oh, yeah, they're so into it. In Ashland, in the town where I live, because I moved to Oregon, in Ashland, they had like paper straws at all the places, but now they have a no straw policy. Like, we have straws, they're all paper and compostable, but you got to ask for it now. The whole town decided to do it.
Who wants a paper straw? They're disgusting.
I've used them, yeah. But
they disintegrate in your mouth. I'm like, just drink from the bottle.
But it doesn't last that long for me anyway. I suck juice down all the time. But that progressive thinking is so amazing. Like, we don't have that here at all.
It's funny that's progressive now, right? It's like old school, really.
Yeah, just get back to basics, Yeah, it is. Let me ask you this, just working with people, what kind of food dramas do you, what are the most common food dramas do you see? Because we know the quote unquote correct way to eat. We all look at things through the lens of colonic therapy. So that's why I got into this work too. I was attracted to it because Gil really lit me up about it, because I saw a lot of people getting a lot of benefit at Chakra 17, the first place I worked with him. So I was like kind of lit up about it in that way, but I also realized that like I studied food philosophy, I studied farming, not like a farmer, but like all the different farming philosophies. Like I learned this through Angelica Kitchen, not like I grew my own food or anything like that. I lived in New York, but I was really into food culture, into organic food. I was really into veganism as a spiritual path in regards to it being a healthy way to live. And I realized that doing colonics, as I moved away from the food preparation culture, as I got to become a little bit more of a purist in my approach. You know, I wasn't going to be eating like chocolate brownies just because they're organic and vegan and made with whole wheat flour. Like that was a good first step for me for the first few years. But now I'm getting into like some raw stuff and like more simple food. I realized that as I moved away from that and I wanted to do the work, that it was like it's where you got all the information. Colonic therapy reveals everything about how someone's diet is treating them, you know, and I really got into it for that reason. So colonic therapy tells us everything. And I've watched a number of different, we've seen so many different food fads go up and down. We've seen lots of successes, lots of failures. We look at everything through that lens. Most of our clients, and you correct me if I'm wrong with your practice, but most of the clients that I've ever seen in 16 years, most of our clients here at Vitality, which is thousands of people now at this point, they don't eat the perfect diet. There's a lot of food dramas. Like, what are the most common food dramas that you see with people? Holy shit, that was the longest way I could have ever asked that fucking question. It's so late. You realize I've been here since early morning and like doing shit. I'm so sorry. What are the?
I'm like, what?
Jen, wake up! I'm sorry.
Food drama. God, there's so many. I think a lot of it, as far as like habits or following diets, because I can tell you, my current pet peeve is the fucking keto diet.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yeah.
Everyone's on the keto diet.
Yeah.
And they're hung up on that. Like last year it was the Whole30. This year's the keto diet.
Whole30. I love how branding and marketing comes into this. Like,
it's the paleo diet, isn't it?
Isn't it just like Whole Foods for 30 days? Like, hello, bingo. Like, what the fuck did you just figure out? But like somehow it's a thing. Was there a book or a nutritionist associated with this?
Yeah.
Probably some pseudo nutritionist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be smashing.
I don't know much about it. I just know from my clients. I just keep hearing the Whole30. But I gather that it's really like the paleo diet, where it is whole foods, no sugar, lots of meat, like that kind of thing. And then the keto diet, where I'm just like, everyone's on this keto diet to lose 1 million pounds in a day. And then it's just, it's not sustainable. So I think people are just choosing paths that are not sustainable. Whether
it's a new version of Atkins.
Yeah.
They rated all the different diets based on success rates. They had all these nutritionists and doctors weigh in on it. And keto was the last. I think there was 30 different diets. And it was everything from like Mediterranean to like, vegan was on there. Vegan ranked pretty high up there as a beneficial diet. And it had, I forgot which list it was. I forgot who put out this study or list, but they just ranked them. It was opinion based on all the results they've seen, but it was a lot of different people weighed in on it, and keto was at the bottom.
Really?
Because it'll take weight off people. It's not sustainable for most people, and it destroys the organs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Sign up now.
Yeah, sign up now. Well, people will, because they can eat bacon and they could lose weight. But yeah,
I think they even give you like a list of cheeses to eat. I'm like, when did cheese become a health food? Even to cheese lovers. Cheese lovers know that cheese isn't a health food. Like it's an indulgence. Yeah, totally. But I mean, I just try to steer people towards eating more greens. Like Gil instilled that in me. Just eat greens with it. You know,
salads with everything.
Salads with everything. It helps digest. But he would get me with it's 0 calories. Like, did he ever get you with that?
Gil never.
Or no, not 0. It's negative calories is what he would say.
Calories.
I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Like I'm like basically wiping out all the calories I just ate.
He never coached me nutritionally, you know, because I was already deep in at that point. So he just really impressed this idea upon me. Like, yes, all the nutrients are cool and that's part of it. And all those enzymes and phytonutrients and trace minerals, like that's all amazing. But he's like, it's about elimination. Like you got to focus on that. And I was like, And that's when I started doing not only colonics, but like saunas and like doing all this stuff to like open my body up.
Yeah. And then he also so many of his lessons are just my life now. Like the idea that you don't have to eat all, when I got into it was the 5 meal a day diet, like the 5 small meals a day was popular. And so it was so confusing. And to hear from Gil that he just eats 1 meal a day, which is not what I do, but I'm like, oh, so that's normal. I mean, he looks great. He looks healthy.
Yeah.
So I just try to instill that in my clients. I don't really like talking about food, honestly, with them. I don't want people to keep perpetuating this obsession over what they ate or like what order or whatever. Like, just find what works for you. I think the biggest thing with a lot of clients is just binging, overeating and binging at times. And I think a lot of that's just emotional. It has nothing to do with food, really, at the end of the day. So I don't really want to get into that, with them anyways. It's just, then the whole conversation becomes about food. It's such an easy thing to focus on.
Speaking of conversations being about food, I put out that Instagram question, and I said, what do you want us to talk about? And
everyone wants to talk about food.
Almost everybody said, what does Jen eat in a day? Like, so many of those.
Really?
So many of those came into play.
Oh my God. Okay, let's talk about it then.
Yeah. What do you eat in a day? You weren't initially, you weren't always into a vegan diet.
No,
but then
I
you
went
got, like,
in and
deep
out.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was into it when I slowly got into it reading the raw food detox diet. And then I just became kind of hardcore raw vegan. It was all for just health and vanity reasons. Of course, the side effect of compassion and all that was great, but it wasn't my primary focus. So I wavered out of that because I definitely went through a rebellious phase where I was like, fuck these raw vegans. Like, they're all so annoying, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, wait, there's different levels of annoyingness with veganism. There's people that will like debate you about honey and stuff like that. There's that part of it. There's people that will debate the fact that, like, Adidas gave me a pair of shoes because I knew someone that worked there. They're suede, and I didn't have a lot of money when I opened the studio. I'm wearing them today, but there's people that'll like throw shade on me for it. And then there's the vegans that are so body obsessed. And
it's the body obsessed ones that annoy me. The other ones, I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm wrong. You're right. But the body obsessed ones it's too much for me because I also relate to that. I went through that phase, and then I guess it's a trigger for me. I'm just like, ugh, like it's just like a reflex, like I can't talk about food like this anymore. Like, it's just so self-indulgent to me.
It's boring as all hell. Like, I love talking about food with someone that's like just getting into it, and I'm like, this is all this exciting shit that you can eat, and like, this is how you can do it, and there's a juice bar here, and like, that really gets me pumped up. Or if someone's having like issues that we need to troubleshoot what's going on in their diet. But if it's anybody that's trying to like have a yoga, fitness, soul cycle body, and they want to talk about the different, is a mango cleaner than a banana kind of shit, like, I'm done. I'm fucking done with that shit.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say I don't want to talk about food. Of course I want to talk about food. I love food. But so in a day, I'm very mindful of what I eat. I don't practice perfect food combining. I don't juice every day. I don't have a green smoothie every day. I also like to eat shitty vegan foods, like the vegan movement has come so far as getting people away from, meat, or like, even now they're doing the fish stuff.
Vegan cuisine is at its highest it's ever been now. It has departed greatly from its original health food roots. I find that to be unfortunate because that's where I came from. But at the same time, I mean, it's the best time in the world to eat vegan food. What Matthew Kenny and Scott are doing are like, wow.
Anytime I'm in the city, I'm like, I have to have Matthew Kenny. So okay, in a day, let's talk. I mean, today's not a good example. I've only had 2 Larabars today and there's juice right now because we're going to go to Double Zero and indulge. And
is Andy here?
He's coming after. He's going to meet me there, actually.
Oh, okay.
But like, I plan my day like that. It's like, I don't want to eat super heavy. I still do the light to heavy. Like, I usually actually don't really eat much in a day, like during the daytime. And then at night, I almost always have a big salad. I started growing my own salad.
I saw that. So you used one of those hydroponic towers or something?
Yeah. So I just learned that it's actually aeroponics because the roots aren't in water all the time. They're in the air, and water just kind of through a water pump goes up and it trickles down. I cannot believe it worked. I'm like amazed with myself. It's and I mean, I shouldn't be. I didn't really do anything, but I just followed instructions. So it's an aeroponic garden. It's towergarden.com, and they send you can do it outdoors or indoors. If you want it indoors, you have to have the LED grow lights.
Right. Okay. Probably
which are
good for
so
winter
bright.
time in New York. Yeah.
So they have to be on 14 hours every day and off for 10 hours. So they're so bright that it works. I just keep them at the duty-free studio. I wouldn't want that in my home. But it grew. Like I had produce in like 2 months and a lot. Like it replenishes. Like I fed me and Andy for like 2 weeks.
Are these like, so, okay, so you have this white tower and it's got all these little holes in it.
Yeah.
Or pockets. We'll call them pockets, right? And because I saw a picture of this on Instagram, and you like take a little soil pouch or something? You
It comes
stick it in
with,
there?
you don't put soil. It comes with, what's it called? Rock wool.
Oh, I've seen. I saw it at Tom's place.
So
'cause
rock
he had
wool.
one, yeah.
And the rock wool has little holes, little divots in it.
Okay.
And then you put whatever you want to grow in that. So you have to, if you're doing, you have to do it from seed. They said you can get little, what do you call it? Seedlings. When they grow a little bit, you can get those from, your.
So you don't have to, yeah, they're already started. Yeah.
Yeah, but you want to make sure you rinse all the soil out because I think the soil can fuck things up. I don't remember why. But you put the seedlings, seeds of whatever you want to grow.
I'm sure, because that soil is probably a different medium to be sitting. Like, that I don't know what the wool is that you're talking about, but I know how those irrigators work, and they probably drain properly. They probably have some type of system down with that.
I think it messes up the pump actually.
Yeah.
So you get the rock. What's it called? Well, I always want to call it rock wool.
I don't know. I have no. I'm sitting here nodding like yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never.
They just look like it looks like a green like moss like pillow kind of thing. And then you put the seed in there, whatever you want to grow. So I did lettuce, cucumbers, which I didn't even know they were flowers. I don't even know what food looks like.
Hold on, your cucumbers grew and they didn't get pollinated? They grew inside?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I'm no expert on farming. I'm like getting super into gardening because Holly's been growing foods. Our family's been growing food.
Yeah, I
since
noticed.
before she was born. Well, she's from a farming valley and horses. She was in 4-H where like you take care of an animal and like like she knows how to like take care of animals. She knows they know how to garden. They grow a lot of their food. We have chickens. Ours is more of a chicken rescue, but her family always had chickens growing up. So anyway, so I'm just gonna like I don't know anything about it, but I'm getting into it. But I don't know why I'm sitting here nodding, pretending I know what rock wool is.
No, but the flowers, I was surprised too. I was wondering too if they needed to be pollinated.
Right, because I thought that they did.
It's crazy. Like every day I come in, there's flowers on the ground.
The flowers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, when I ordered the tower garden, it was huge. It took up my whole studio. I had the LED lights on the floor until like the seeds grew because they have to grow up to 3 inches before you transplant them into the garden. So I was like, if anything, at least I'll have like a green wall somewhat.
How big is this thing though?
It's pretty big. It doesn't look that big in my studio, but when it came in, I was like, oh, this is way bigger than I thought it was going to be.
You don't remember the one that Tom had at release?
I kind of do, but like, I just remember thinking, why'd you buy that?
Well, because he never used it. But
here I am.
But it was this big like tower that he had, and he's like, oh, look, I can come over here and snip kale off and juice it. I should have
just took his. Taken his, like stole his, actually.
He wouldn't have noticed. Probably,
no, not at all.
But yeah, but I'm trying to think, I'm just thinking like if I don't need it where I am in Oregon, but if I were in the city, would this be a worthy investment?
I think so if you have space for it. If you don't mind the lights and the sound, I think the sound is relaxing. The water goes on every 15 minutes for 15 minutes. It sounds like you got a fountain in your bedroom.
I don't know how we lost the plastic conversation before, but I really don't think.
What, this plastic?
Yeah, remember we were joking around about this plastic. This was, I don't know if when you look at the enormity of it and what's going on in China and out east, and like when you really take in the enormity of how much plastic is produced, I don't think we're ever going to stop using it. I think we need to change our source ingredient to something that you could literally throw in an ocean and it'll dissolve and not kill everything.
That's what they're trying to do with the corn-based ones.
Yes, that was really cool what happened with the styrofoam. They made potato and cornstarch styrofoam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of the packaging material now, you get it. You could just dump it in your tub. Or I used to dump it in my bathtub and turn the shower on, and it dissolves. And
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, so you tested it? It works.
Oh, it dissolves right in your hand. Corn.
Is that a thing right now?
It's been a thing for like 15 years.
Oh.
But not everybody uses it. I don't know what the price difference is, but there's some companies that are like new companies that I'll buy electronics from, and they'll send me something in like regular styrofoam. And I'm like, why are you buying this? Like, shouldn't everybody be like, this was available 15 years ago. But I think that's what's going to happen. Like, I don't think about the red bags. If anyone's ever been to a Chinatown, they do the red bags. A lot of them, I don't think those red bags are going to go anywhere. I don't think that
you don't think so.
And I don't think that me bringing a hemp bag and putting my broccoli in it that I bought in Chinatown or whatever is going to like make a huge difference. And I'm not trying to be negative about it. I'm just saying I think I don't
like your attitude, Mike.
I think the enormity though is going to require us to change the source, because I just don't think the world will work that way.
We were just talking about that yesterday. Andy was saying it's going to take literally like a war.
It would take a war,
or we have to conserve everything.
Yeah, or it would take a collapse, or like some real deep threat. Because think about all the threats we have now. Like even with like someone on a personal level, think about the clients you've experienced or people that you may know in your family. And I'm assuming that you have. I have people that like they come so close to death because of like the quadruple bypasses or cancer scares. Very rarely does somebody switch their whole shit around. And
I know.
And it's just
they're like I'm fixed.
You almost fucking died. And they're like, oh, whatever, So I can't imagine like when it's not in my backyard mentality and it's like I can't imagine anybody really like going like, oh yeah, we got to like switch this over to corn plastic, like people are just like, whatever. No, the sky's still blue. I can breathe. I have money, whatever. It's just weird way that we show up in the world that's like so checked out sometimes.
Speaking of plastic, though, a client of mine yesterday showed me this crazy video that's completely gone viral. And apparently China's been selling rice that has plastic beads in it. But anyways, that was a comment on on the video.
Plastic beads in rice?
Like some of the rice grains are plastic. I don't know. I just read this last night.
Shit.
And it was a comment on this video of this woman. And I'm like, this woman has, okay, so this is the video.
I saw this. Tell us this.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you see this? Is this new?
I think so, because I just saw it like 2 days ago.
And
Nick showed me.
I mean, I'm not laughing that people believe it, but I'm just like, this is so bad. So the lettuce one, right?
Yeah.
That our lettuce has plastic now. So she was showing us, she took the romaine lettuce, she took off 2 leaves, she took out a bowl of hot water out of the oven with her bare hands, and she put the leaves in the water, and she was like, look guys, this is hot water, scalding water, this romaine lettuce isn't even wilting, and look at this plastic that's coming off of it. And she starts peeling the cellulose off. Yeah, and I'm like, are people really believing that's plastic?
I asked Nick when he was showing me, I was like, wait, this is a joke? Like, is she
I thought it was a joke.
She seemed like she was really serious about it.
And then so I was telling my client, like, don't believe that. Like, please don't stop eating greens, because of this dumbass. And so she looks it up, and I think it's a conspiracy video.
It's a real conspiracy video.
I think so. Wow. I think she was paid to do that.
I almost understand it on some level, because when I first got into real food, I had such a limited understanding of what food was. One time I returned miso the first time I bought it because it smelled like wine to me, and I didn't think that not wine, not like it didn't actually smell like real wine, but it had that scent reminiscent of fermentation, and I was like, I don't know if it's supposed to taste like this, smell like this. I don't know if this is right. And then I've had I remember when I juiced carrots once, and I might have juiced another vegetable, and it was one of the first times I ever juiced, and there was a tiny, like a very micro film of oil on the top. And I had washed the juicer plenty of time, and I thought, oh, this must be oil from I didn't realize that vegetables had fat in them, and small amounts of fat.
Really?
Yeah.
And that comes out on the water?
When you juice enough of it, you'll see a very microfilm. You can
see it.
Oh,
that's so cool.
Yeah. I don't see it with lettuce and things like that, although lettuces and greens have very high amounts of essential fatty acids. Actually, not true. Very low amounts of essential fatty acids. So if you eat a lot of greens and juice a lot of greens, you can actually get your essential fatty acids from greens. But so I don't see it when I juice greens, but I saw it in carrots, and I've seen it multiple times. Every now and again, I'll see like a little bit on there and on the surface of the liquid, but I didn't know. Like my knowledge was so just, you're
like, this is spoiled.
Yeah. One time I was eating wakame or some type of seaweed that I rehydrated from one of the shops in Koreatown when I used to work there.
I know what you're gonna say.
Oh shit, really? Okay, so
do I don't know.
The water that I rehydrated it in had rainbow oil on top, and it smelled like
oil.
Yeah,
like
And I was like,
Petro oil?
yeah. And then my friend that worked there, he was like, dude, he's like, that is like, you can't even read that label. You don't know if this is a quality product or if this is something that came from the bottom of the barrel when it comes to companies. Like, you don't know where they harvested this seaweed from.
That's so gross. One of my clients also told me, she was like, oh no, you don't want to get the seaweed from Maine that has like oil or whatever in the water. You want to get it from, and she gave me a resource. I should give it to you.
From Maine? You don't want to get it from Maine?
No, she's like, you want to get it from this person. It's someone who like goes out to the like middle of the ocean to like get their dulse or whatever. But I'm kind of off the dulse ever since this happened to me. This is what I thought you were gonna say. I had salad and I put dulse in it.
Dulse, by the way, is it's like a red seaweed that has a very minerally iodine flavor. It's
and
like
if you're
bacon-y.
lucky, it's like a little chewy.
It's a little bacon sometimes, yeah.
So I had it in, I didn't finish the salad. I put it back in the fridge. And then the next day I went to eat it and there were like, not snails, but you know what I mean?
Snails.
Like, are they snails?
Those are snails, yes.
I ate one. Like it crunched in my mouth and I was like, oh.
I've had plenty of snails in dulse. Oh, that grossed you out? Okay. No, it's just.
When they're rehydrated. Oh, no. And then there was a little crab too. Like they get bigger when they. Like I had like a claw in my.
But wait, it was a micro crab. You mean a little crab, right?
Yeah, but still gross.
Right. Oh yeah. No. So here's the thing. Like my parents moved to Maine, and I've spent a lot of time on that rocky coast, bringing it. My son and I, when he was little, we would take seaweed in. You could eat the kelp right out of there, and there's also other seaweeds. And
what's that taste like?
Oh, it tastes delicious.
Really?
Yeah. So you could eat the fresh kelp. It's so good. You could bring it back to the house and slice it up. But they all of so the tide goes out, and all across the rocks there's all this seaweed that's now collapsed. That's normally like swaying up, I guess, in the ocean. Right? So it's all collapsed. So you could take whatever you want. We look for like crabs and we look for things and starfish or whatever. But all of the rocks and all the seaweed is covered in snails, and some of them are teeny tiny little baby snails, but I mean by the billions on like a coastline,
Really?
And it's all over, and it's especially all over dulse. So they try like what I do, because I don't like the crunch. I'm not like grossed out by the shell or anything.
You're not?
Nah, it's just a snail shell. Like it's not alive. It's dried. There's so many dead ones all over the shoreline too, all dried because like they just it's
so cool that you've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where it comes from.
I have pictures of it. I'll if for anyone watching this on YouTube, I'll try to find that picture if I can, throw it up on the screen. But yeah, I'll show you. I think I have a picture I have a picture maybe on my Instagram that I'll show you before we leave tonight.
Cool.
So, but there's snails everywhere. So of course they get dried in there, and not big shell. It's micro ones.
So is it not vegan?
That I have a whole thing about insects and veganism that I get into with people. I'm a big believer that honey is vegan, and some of my vegan friends will be like, I disagree, and I'll explain to them very rationally why it is, and they'll say we need to agree to disagree. Like they're so stuck. Like I don't care if they believe it, but they're just like so not going to hear this. But like and that's why we were just talking about pollination. Almost all the food, but especially all of the fruits that we're eating in the United States and countries all over the world, but I just know a lot of our agriculture here like requires pollination in order for these flowers to then turn into a fruit. And almonds, for example, you can't have almonds without bee production. There's not enough wild bees out, those are endangered anyway, but I don't even know if there was enough of them to support the big mono farms that we're creating anyway. But what they do is they truck the bees up and down the coast, and they'll be in Oregon with the pears, and then they'll come down to California and they'll be with the almonds, and they're there for a certain period of time when they're flowering. And the interesting thing about the almond flowers don't even make enough like sugar for them to survive, so they have to pour sugar syrup into the hives just to keep them satisfied. And so technically like almond milk is not vegan because it requires beekeeping. I think beekeeping is really good anyway.
But then that still doesn't make your honey argument. What's that one?
Oh, so my point is that, beekeeping and honey production is vegan because it's part of the food culture that produces vegan food. You see what I mean? And it also keeps bees alive in our environment. And honey also has a lot of beneficial health effects. But someone's like, well, you're exploiting the bees. Well, then you can't eat almonds. You can't eat pears. Like now we're in this whole slippery slope of like nonsense that happens where we're so disconnected from the food supply that we think we're not going to trouble another being in order to survive. It's like if we were and first of all, there's no hunter-gatherer vegans, right? Because that doesn't exist in nature. That's only a product of agriculture. almost all the farms that grow all that delicious farmers market vegetables that you see pictures being taken of very artistically in vegan cookbooks was all grown with manure, chicken manure. All those farmers have animals. All those farmers eat the animals. I'm sure there's a very small handful of vegan. I actually think there's a couple of certified vegan farms where they don't use manure and stuff.
Right.
That's cool. I don't know why they would go through all that trouble, but that's cool. And I'm sure there's a couple of vegan farmers out there, but comparatively to the food that most of, not only the whole United States, but most of the vegans of the United States are eating is all done by farmers that eat meat, use animals in their agriculture, and require bees. So I'm like, how disconnected are we going to be in denial about the fact that we're integrated with animals to produce our food culture?
My takeaway from this is we should start a manure company.
We really should.
I
have so much chicken manure. So that's the cool thing. Like, and here's the thing, we were talking about gardening, like me being into gardening now, it's so like the chicken manure and the eggshells are so valuable. I'm like the compost lord at the house, It's like, so
I remember watching your videos where you would take your compost to the farmers market, right? In Brooklyn.
I used to do that in Brooklyn. Yeah, I would take my compost to compost places in Brooklyn.
I tried composting at home once. It's hard. I mean, you got to have the right ratio of the dry and the wet.
It's hard, especially when you're in the city and you're trying to do it partially in your house, so you don't have a lot of space and we have rats and stuff. In Oregon, where I am, I just have a big bucket. I fill it. I take some dry grass. I take some dry leaves. I just layer it up. I roll it around every now and again. These soldier flies lay their larvae in there, and then they grow, and then the chickens will go in and pick them out and eat them. And then the compost is incredible, and the chickens make the most amazing manure, and it allows me to grow all my next level vegan produce.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So, but ours is a chicken rescue, though. We don't use them as.
I know. I saw a rescue in progress on your stories.
Yeah.
When you didn't you save the last two?
One Holly found in a parking lot. One I found. One we both found on the side.
Didn't you buy two of them from the slaughterhouse?
We bought two. They weren't from a slaughterhouse, but these two girls were so old. One of them has passed already, just from old age.
Oh,
they were so old.
They were so pretty.
They were big, beautiful birds. But the thing is, they don't lay anymore. So when they're actually, one of them is still laying. But when they're that old, and they're not, most farming people and like rural people want chickens to either lay eggs or to eat, right? So like we were at this like this homesteading fair, and there was like lots of birds and animals there, and these birds were beautiful, and Holly was just like, we got to take these birds. And I was like, wait, we're getting chickens today? She's like, you know how like women in handbags or women in shoes, like Holly and animals, like she brought a skunk home the other day.
I saw.
Yeah, she rescues everything. So this is why I love her, So we were there, and she's like, yeah, I want to get these birds. She's like, these birds are too old. They're probably going to either be killed. She's like, we're not letting them die.
Aww.
Take them back to the house. They're going to be our next pets. So we brought the birds back.
She died peacefully.
Fun. One of them died peacefully. One's still alive and doing great. And the other one died. She's just an older bird. Let me bring us back to some of these Instagram questions.
We didn't finish the food question.
Oh, is that where we started?
Yeah.
Jen's like, I grew a garden and we're getting on pigs and manure and cat, all this shit.
Everyone already tuned out.
Yeah, so tell us what you eat in a day. And then I have a really cool question that somebody asked us.
Okay. Every day is different, but like I said, I generally fast most of the day, not on purpose. It's just I'm busy and I'm not thinking about food. But I like to wake up, I do drink coffee. Like sometimes I'll have a black coffee. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll have tea. Sometimes I'll have that ashwagandha powder stuff. I'll just brew that in some water. I bought some of that from the Raw Food World once because it was supposed to raise testosterone levels, and I just wanted to experiment. I'm not having any problems, okay? I just wanted to see, so I bought some ashwagandha just to see, because I was doing a lot of mace training and kettlebells. It's supposed to raise testosterone naturally in men. Why do you take it? I don't know. You saw an ad from the Raw Food World, and Matt Monarch said, you got to take ashwagandha. Sold. Oh, God, that's so great. I drink it. How did you get into colonic therapy? I was bored. Why do you take ashwagandha? I don't know. This is great. So I kind of like the bitterness of it, and I like that it's a powder and I don't have to steep a tea bag or waste any of that stuff. It's just easy. So that I might have a bar. Like Lara bars are just easy. I don't necessarily think they're healthy. I mean, I think they got bought out by some major corporation. General Mills bought them, and they started to edge away from
from what they were. They were like 3 ingredients. It was
Yeah.
like apples, pecans, dates, and it was like an apple pie, cinnamon apple pie bar. And now it's like blueberry flavor, and like they stretch a little bit. Yeah.
And they're all delicious.
No, they make us. If I'm on the road and I can't find food or something, I'll eat a Larabar.
Yeah. But it also depends like what season it is. Like all winter I was on a smoothie kick. So I would wake up and I would like crave my smoothie, but it's all I would have all day, and I loved it. It like sustained me. You got me into that vitamin mineral green
From Health Force Nutritionals.
Yeah, so I'd mix, I mean, it'd always be different. So I'd mix that maybe with some, I love bananas, banana, water, what else? I'd do like frozen blueberries, always like a huge handful of greens.
Mm-hmm.
I like flaxseed in smoothies. I think that's pretty much it for the smoothie, but I'd make a huge one and I would just like sip on that all day.
This is a perfect thing, guys. If you watch my Instagram thing, we talk about food combining, and I always like give the formulation. I always say like, this is what you do if you're experiencing this may be the problem. But I always say, if you're not having a problem, or if you're just getting into this, like, you don't worry about food combining stuff, you're a perfect example. Quality. You don't have any complaints. Your life is going great physically, and there's flax seeds in your banana smoothie.
Yeah, it's delicious. And then there's days where I want a heavy lunch, so it's all, but I'm not going to have like a heavy lunch 5 days in a row. So I'm very mindful of where my body's at and not to like overdo it. So there is a vegan spot in Jersey City called Subia's that I love and adore their food. And I'll go and I'll have like a tempeh wrap, or, and I'll have the chips and like coffee with it, and no, I don't think that's the healthiest, but it's delicious and it gets me through the day, especially if I need a break. And then dinner is always a huge salad, avocado salad, or I'll do sweet potatoes with salad. I love red onions. I'm obsessed with red onions in my salad. I get
into that too.
Right?
I get a little bit into that. Yeah.
I know how to cut an onion so well. Like I love onions. And what else? And then I'll always have like chocolate for dessert. I don't, like I said, don't eat perfectly. I always have to have a treat after dinner, and that's pretty much it usually. Sometimes I'll have some crackers with like a dip after the salad, but the salad usually, I don't know. I think it's because it's just high nutrition. It just always is super satisfying for me.
It sounds like we could name this. This could be the next thing. This is like and
I'll have a glass of wine.
And a glass of wine. Oh, yeah. Wow, you've just now it's even better. People are going to love it. So what are we going to call this? We're going to call this the non-obsession high nutrient diet or something like that.
I like that.
Right? Like,
yes.
That's the next book that's coming out. So I have a question from that I thought was a great question no, it's not that involved, but it's a really good one. When you think someone needs a colonic, what do you see?
Oh.
Right? Because like, think about it. Like I meet people all the time, and I look at someone and I'll just be like, Jesus Christ, that person is loaded. I'm getting tired from how hard your liver's working. Jesus Christ. It's just like,
oh my God, I love looking at guts. Like, that's my thing. Like, I was in Atlantic City recently for actually a veg fest. And I just think it's so impressive when guys have like the big guts. And I just was like, oh my God, you need a colonic. But I could go either way with those guys, right? Like, either nothing's really going to come out because they're so glued, or it's going to be epic, It's
funny how people's bodies are different that way. Like,
yeah.
I've gotten those guys that on the treatment table that have like these really massive guts, and sometimes, right, like a little gas bubble comes out, like nothing really wants to come free from their body. Then other people, like, it's as if their body was waiting for this for the last 20 years.
Those are the best.
Yeah, and you're just like, yes.
And people are like, isn't that, like, I love when clients apologize for being disgusting. I'm like, this is amazing. This feels like popping the biggest pimple that squirts into the mirror. Those are the most satisfying. It's super cathartic for both of us. Don't worry.
So what do you see when you look at guts?
I look at guts, and then Gil's got me looking at the eye thing.
The eyes. Well, there's a glassy-eyedness that
but
happens.
The eyes floating upward. Like, if your eyes aren't centered.
Sanpaku.
What is it?
Sanpaku. It means 3 sides showing, I believe, in Japanese. I could be butchering this. There's something that comes from old school macrobiotics, so forgive me if I'm just being a cultural fool here. There's a book written by one of the macrobiotic teachers and founders. I don't remember which one wrote the book, but I actually own the book, but I haven't looked at it for like 20 years. And it's called You Are All Sanpaku, and it's about Americans.
No way.
So, and I don't know if this is true or not, but interestingly enough, if I had a night where I've eaten a little too late at night, this was many years ago, I would look in the mirror and I would see that there was a little bit of white showing under my
Yeah.
eyes. So
You're like, ugh.
yeah. So there's like, so the idea, anyone listening to this that doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, the idea is that when we look straight ahead and we're not like looking up or looking down, when we look straight ahead, our eyes have white on two sides on each eyeball. And when you're out of balance, the eye lifts up into the head slightly and you'll see white underneath. Right. So it looks almost like a half moon, but not quite a, right. Half moon. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It looks almost like a half moon, but, they have photos of people that they say like they have Kennedy and Osama bin Laden and all that. And they have pictures of these people that may or may not have been glancing up when they took these pictures. I don't know. And they'll say like, look how out of balance this person is right before they died.
Right.
You know, like, so I don't know. I think it's possible that it is an indicator of something, but that to me is like on the same level as the crease in the ear for the heart attack. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's any truth to that. They say John Ritter. Remember him from that show? It was a Three's Company, right? Showing my age here. Yeah, old sitcom show. And right, you know, he had a heart attack, and he was like one of our cherished actors and loved by all.
The creases where though?
He had creases in his ear. So they say if you have a crease in your earlobe, that it means that you're at risk.
And it's not an ear piercing.
Right. They say you're at risk for like a heart attack. So I think it's probably in that area.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too many people walking around, you know, diagnosing people with Sampak who
unless you're a colon therapist.
But wait, so Gil talks about checking out the eyes.
So the eyes, I mean, general just weight in the midsection. I could, like, when people look kind of swollen, you know, like they're retaining fluids, I feel like they could use a little draining. Under pressure, right? So that's what I can see. I see it in fingers. I see it under the eyes. And for me, a lot of it has to do with breath and tongue. Mm-hmm. So I was with somebody recently in a hospital, and they had a fast for a medical procedure, right? And yeah, the fact that they had to have this medical procedure tells me that their body was toxic, right? And it was one of my family members, and they what happened was the anesthesiologist came in, and the anesthesiologist, like interns or whatever came in, or students as well. And they were doing like the stuff they were doing their practice on him. Like the main person came, but then they were like, you know, okay, so my assistants are going to come ask you a few questions. And they always say, open your mouth, stick out your tongue, because they want to see about breathing tubes, right? And how, you know, they just want to they do all this stuff. And they go, is this your name? Yeah. Are you allergic to this? Can you open your mouth? So they're doing this thing. And he opened his mouth and he stuck out his tongue, and he wasn't feeling good an hour before that because he had taken a bunch of the laxatives the night before, blew himself out, is now existing perfectly empty all morning, and with a toxic body, having not eaten, right? So now you're in emptiness. So immediately the toxicity starts to enter the digestive tract, right? Right. I saw that crusted white tongue, and as soon as everybody left, went up to him and I was like, all right, look, good luck with your surgery. This is going to go great. Stick out your tongue for a second. I'm going to take a picture of something I'm going to show you after. I have a picture of the tongue I put on Instagram. Are you serious? Yeah. Okay, I got to see it. And I saw it, but that's not, but like the tongue and the breath. So with the tongue, it's what, a film? It's the white film. Okay. It's like, you know, it's the white tongue that Arnold Ehret talks about. I used to have I don't know why I'm going off in this direction. I used to have a fake metal band that I created an entire album for. Who's calling us at 10 o'clock at night? Who's calling this office at 10 p.m.? There was emergency colonic. Yeah, there was so I made this fake metal band called Enzymatic Death, and it had everything to do. How old were you? Oh no, I was like 24. I was a colonic therapist. Oh. and one of the songs was "Curse of the White Tongue" because that was one of Ehret's things, the Curse of the White Tongue. That's awesome. I'm a fucking nerd. Anyway, I have a picture of this tongue, but it's amazing how much the breath and the tongue will tell you about what's going on in someone's digestive tract and how impacted they are. Well, how much breath is just people are not flossing? But if you are not eating so talking about toxicity coming out of the mouth, garlic and onion breath is the toxicity from the garlic and onions because those oils are technically toxic. They're irritants. That's why they burn our eyes, and they actually irritate the digestive tract a little bit. Minor. It's minor. It doesn't mean we don't eat them. It just means it's minor, and your body will throw those oils off through the tongue. That's why garlic breath is a thing. Yeah. That's why cucumber. I was tasting those onions yesterday. Yeah, that's why cucumber breath is not a thing. You know what I mean? So if someone ate like romaine lettuce and avocado and a tomato for dinner, like some weird simple diet thing like that, they shouldn't wake up in the morning and have the most disgusting breath, especially after they rinse their mouth out. All right. Like you shouldn't have that rank breath.
Jen's just looking at me like, Jesus Christ, this guy's got some fucking opinion on bad breath. Is the cacao that I ate earlier kicking in? Am I like, I'm so fucking cracked out.
How
from
do you
today.
tell somebody with bad breath they need a colonic? Like, what do you do for them?
I just say, listen, I see what's going on at the top. I don't think much is going on at the bottom. And I think there's some work that we need to do.
That is very classy, Mike. I like it.
Is there anything that you would like to leave the Everyday Detox podcast listeners with? Some tips, some advice? I always have, and I think people like to hear it from a lot of different angles. I like to have my top 5 things that I think everybody should do. Do you have like any advice for people that are trying to eat cleaner, might be having some issues with detoxification, constipation, things like that, things that they could do to make everything beautiful again?
Yeah. My main thing that I've noticed with people is they're just, a lot of people are in the corporate environment. Eating when they're stressed is just, you're just better off fasting. I know it sounds extreme during the day, but when, you're running around, you're meeting deadlines, you got your boss breathing down your neck, you shouldn't be eating. And I tell all my clients this. Animals, when they're in fight or flight, they're either hunting or gathering, right? When they're hunting, they have adrenaline coursing through their system. They're not snacking, they're got their eye on the prize. And then once they catch their prey, they have their relaxation chemicals running through their system, the dopamine, and then they're in position to receive and, nurture their body with nutrients and they're eating. And I feel like we just don't we're so removed from mindful eating. We're not eating when we're relaxed, when we could just sit down and enjoy our meal and then put it away and like get on with the day. It's like we're eating while we're multitasking all the time. And that's just so many women are suffering because they hold all their anxiety in their gut and they're not going to the bathroom. They're getting more and more bloated because the longer stuff sits in there, the more it's putrefying and fermenting and creating more gas and methane and hydrogen. So I always tell people just being mindful of when you're eating during the day, just try to fast when you're at the office. If you can't get a lunch break, unfortunately, a lot of people here in the city don't get lunch breaks. They have to eat at their desks. And then breakfast. I feel like people are so hung up on breakfast as being the biggest, what's the saying? The most important meal of the day. So many of my clients eat eggs every single morning. And I just feel like that is one of the main contributors to constipation and gas and all sorts of hormonal issues amongst my clients.
Puts a sticky protein right in the gut first thing and stacks all the food on top of it, right? Everything that happens later throughout the day starts to stack and stack because eggs move through the body so slowly.
So it kills me when clients are like, I had a green smoothie and I had some fruit and my hard-boiled egg. Like everyone's on their hard-boiled egg kick. And I'm like, hey, it smells disgusting. Do everyone a favor, stop eating them. And that's pretty much it. I just stop snacking. That's another thing. My dad's always kind of said that to me since I was little because I've always been a big snacker. And I still snack at night, but it's like I limit it to kind of after dinner. But that's so helpful because if you're snacking all day, you're not going to be food combining properly. You're just going to be creating all sorts of explosions up in there.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, finally, we made it happen. Look at where we are. Look at what's happened in the past 15 years. Right?
I know.
So I'm so glad you're with us here, too, at the studio. And let's do this again, please, please, please.
Definitely.